Everything you were ever taught about emotion began as a lie. They told you that feeling deeply made you human, that kindness was strength, that vulnerability was courage. They said that to lead with your heart was noble, that compassion would be returned, that sincerity would shield you. Yet every man who lived by those words eventually discovered the same truth: emotion is a leash, not a ladder. It binds you to outcomes you cannot control, to people who do not care, and to illusions that vanish the moment you stop feeding them. The world does not reward sincerity. It studies it, measures it, and uses it against you. Power does not live in empathy. It lives in detachment. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this before anyone else. His book was not a manual for kindness, but for survival. He did not write to comfort the virtuous, but to arm the ambitious. He looked at the nature of men and saw what most refuse to see, that people are driven not by ideals, but by interests. They act out of fear and advantage, not love and loyalty. He concluded that if you wish to rule in such a world, you must learn to operate by its laws, not by the illusions that disguise them. Those who lead with feeling mistake emotion for guidance, but emotion blinds. It narrows vision until the only thing visible is desire or pain. The man ruled by his heart hesitates when he should strike, forgives when he should remember, hopes when he should act. Each hesitation costs him something: respect, leverage, territory. Each act of mercy gives his rivals time to regroup. And each time he seeks approval, he loses a fragment of control. Machiavelli saw this weakness in rulers who wanted to be loved. "He who seeks to be loved more than feared," he wrote, "comes to ruin. Love demands that you please. Fear demands only that you prevail. Love is conditional. It exists as long as you provide comfort, as long as you bend to expectation. The moment you stop, it evaporates. Fear, by contrast, endures. It survives hatred, distance, misunderstanding. It creates a stable order because people respect boundaries more than benevolence. They obey what they fear losing, not what they are told to cherish. To seek love in a world built on calculation is to hand your fate to those who benefit from your softness. The man who understands this begins to cut away the illusions one by one until only purpose remains. You must begin with yourself. How many times have you silenced your instincts out of guilt? How many insults have you endured because you did not want to seem cruel? How many promises have you kept long after they stopped serving you? Each act of restraint may feel moral, but morality that costs power is not virtue, it is self-sabotage. You are conditioned to believe that conscience is sacred, but conscience is only useful when it aligns with strategy. Outside of that, it is noise. The first act of freedom is to silence that noise. Machiavelli advised rulers to learn how not to be good. This does not mean you must become cruel. It means you must understand that goodness has value only when it strengthens position. When it weakens you, discard it. Virtue is not a constant. It is a tool. The world calls this cynicism, but it is clarity. A man who clings to moral purity in a field of predators invites his own destruction. Power demands flexibility, not faith. It demands the ability to act coldly when warmth would betray you. To achieve this, you must separate the outer self from the inner. Appear kind, speak gently, display restraint, but never confuse the performance with reality. The world reads surfaces. Few people ever see beneath them, and that ignorance is your protection. The ruler who smiles hides the sword longer than the one who scowls. Appear virtuous when you must, but let your decisions be governed by results, not appearances. Compassion is a costume. Wear it only when it serves your goals. You may feel resistance rising inside you as you hear this. Years of conditioning whisper that such detachment is inhuman, but look closely at the world that taught you otherwise. It rewards deception. It exalts the charming, the manipulative, the strategically kind. Those who tell you to lead with your heart do not practice what they preach. They protect their interests while urging you to expose yours. To survive among predators, you cannot behave like prey. Emotion makes you predictable. When people know what moves you, they know how to move you. Anger can be provoked. Guilt can be exploited. Love can be weaponized. Every feeling becomes a string for someone else to pull. The only way to break free is to dull the responses they expect. You must become unreadable, calm under praise, indifferent to insult. Control begins not in dominance over others, but in dominance over the self. When you feel the surge of emotion rise, do not suppress it, observe it. Study how it attempts to command you. Then, with quiet precision, refuse to obey. In time, the detachment becomes second nature. You stop reacting to manipulation because there is nothing left to manipulate. Anger becomes analysis. Sadness becomes silence. Fear becomes calculation. This is not numbness. It is mastery. You are not escaping emotion, you are containing it. You are placing it behind glass, where it can no longer drive the hand that acts. Machiavelli warned that a man who acts virtuously in a world that is not will come to grief. The lesson is not to abandon virtue, but to use it selectively. A ruler's goodness must be a decision, not a reflex. Mercy can be powerful when it is timed correctly, when it wins loyalty or stabilizes rule. But mercy offered indiscriminately is weakness, and weakness invites revolt. The same applies to forgiveness, generosity, even honesty. Each must serve the strategy, never the ego. There is a peace that follows this awakening. When you no longer expect fairness, disappointment dies. When you stop needing affection, betrayal loses its sting. When you act not from emotion, but from understanding, the world becomes transparent. You begin to see patterns where chaos once was, motives where confusion once reigned. What others call heartlessness is in fact lucidity, the ability to see reality without the distortion of hope. This is the first metamorphosis, the death of guilt. Once guilt dissolves, so does hesitation. You begin to move through the world like water, formless, adaptable, unstoppable. You no longer seek approval because approval has no value. You measure actions only by their effect. You stop justifying, explaining, apologizing. You learn that words are cheap and outcomes are priceless. In this stillness, fear itself changes shape. You no longer fear rejection or loss. You fear only wasted motion. You become deliberate in everything. When others shout, you listen. When they rush, you wait. When they expose, you conceal. This quiet patience is mistaken for weakness, but it is the most dangerous strength. The one who feels nothing cannot be provoked. The one who expects nothing cannot be deceived. Machiavelli did not teach cruelty for its own sake. He taught clarity. He stripped human nature of its romantic disguises and demanded that men see it as it is, selfish, volatile, and easily swayed. To survive such a world, one must learn control so complete that even compassion is a decision. You will still feel, but you will never again be ruled by what you feel. That is the beginning of real power. When you reach this point, something within you quiets. The noise of guilt, the tremor of doubt, the ache of disappointment, they fade. In their place grows a calm so deep, it feels like silence. That silence is your new foundation. It is the void from which calculation arises. It is the coldness that protects your purpose. From here, you can begin to build. Because only when you stop serving your emotions can you start commanding your world. Power begins to take form the moment you stop revealing what you feel. The heart may still beat, but it no longer dictates the rhythm of your actions. In its place, a different intelligence awakens, one that watches, measures, and manipulates without being seen. Machiavelli understood that raw control was never enough. Power must be believable. It must appear gentle to endure, persuasive to expand, invisible to survive. That is why the next transformation is not to destroy emotion, but to disguise it. You must become the mask. The world sees only surfaces. It studies faces, gestures, and tones, then draws conclusions that comfort its illusions. Few ever look beyond them. Machiavelli wrote that everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. This was not cynicism. It was geometry. Appearances shape behavior. If people believe you are calm, they relax. If they believe you are generous, they lower their guard. If they believe you are harmless, they stop preparing for you. The mask is not deception. It is architecture. It builds the stage upon which control is performed. The mask begins with restraint. Words reveal weakness. Tone reveals insecurity, and expression reveals fear. The disciplined man lets none of these escape. His face is steady, his voice level, his movements measured. He knows that silence unnerves more effectively than argument. To remain composed while others rage is to remind them of their instability. They project their noise upon your stillness, and in that reflection, they doubt themselves. The mask is a mirror that shows others what they fear, most their lack of control. But restraint alone is not enough. To rule perception, you must design it. The mask must not be blank. It must be believable. Machiavelli compared the ruler to both fox and lion, the fox to detect traps, the lion to frighten wolves. The fox survives through illusion, the lion through display. Together they form the perfect mask, soft enough to be trusted, dangerous enough to be respected. Show just enough warmth to invite, just enough strength to intimidate. The balance confuses observers, leaving them suspended between admiration and unease. That uncertainty is your shield. You must learn to simulate emotion without surrendering to it. Smile when required, express concern when strategic, laugh when it lowers defenses. But inside, remain still. You are not reacting. You are calculating. This performance is not hypocrisy. It is discipline. It prevents the world from knowing what moves you. Every genuine expression invites intrusion. Every visible feeling grants someone a map to your weaknesses. To become the mask is to erase that map entirely. In time, this becomes second nature. You will no longer need to pretend because the performance fuses with identity. The mask and the man become one. What begins as imitation becomes instinct. You do not suppress emotion, you repurpose it. Anger becomes charisma. Sadness becomes mystery. Fear becomes vigilance. Even joy is rationed, released like currency to buy trust. People will call you sincere because they cannot imagine how much precision sincerity requires. Machiavelli warned that it is not necessary for a ruler to possess every virtue, only to appear to possess them. The mask must look moral even when it conceals immorality, must appear fair even when it hides ambition. Virtue in its pure form limits action. Simulated virtue liberates it. When others see goodness, they relax their scrutiny. When they believe in your fairness, they stop preparing for your strike. The most dangerous power is the one wrapped in benevolence. You may find this transformation unsettling. The remnants of your old self will protest. They will whisper that authenticity is sacred, that pretending corrupts the soul. But ask yourself, who defined authenticity? The world that feeds on honesty is the same one that punishes it. Those who bare their souls are not rewarded for truth. They are disarmed by it. The wise man learns to separate sincerity from exposure. True authenticity is not openness. It is consistency between thought and purpose, regardless of what is shown on the surface. To maintain this consistency, practice invisibility. Speak less than you know. Reveal less than you feel. When people cannot read you, they fill the silence with assumptions, and those assumptions often serve your interest. The unpredictable man becomes magnetic. They lean closer, hoping for clues. They talk more, reveal more, project their fears and hopes onto your calm. You learn their desires while they learn nothing of yours. In every exchange, you grow stronger without appearing to compete. Control of perception requires control of timing. Never rush to speak, never hurry to act. The pause is a weapon. It forces others to interpret, to imagine consequences, to reveal impatience. In negotiation, silence creates pressure greater than argument. In conflict, it creates uncertainty greater than threats. The disciplined man never chases outcomes. He lets others walk into the trap of their own anticipation. They reveal themselves, and he moves when the path is clear. The mask also protects against guilt. Those who can read emotion can invoke it. They will remind you of promises, of sympathy, of debt. But a man without visible weakness cannot be guilted. His calm face disarms accusation. His measured tone turns blame into confusion. When others attempt to provoke, they find no reaction. The absence of emotional feedback drains their power. Eventually, they stop trying. This is not cruelty, it is conservation. You no longer expend energy proving your innocence or defending your motives. You exist beyond justification. As your mastery deepens, you will notice a shift in how people respond. Some will admire your composure. Others will resent it. The emotional crave reaction because reaction validates them. Your silence denies them that validation, and they will call it arrogance, coldness, or cruelty. Do not defend yourself. Explanation reopens the door you just closed. Let them believe what they wish. Their interpretations bind them, not you. The less you say, the more they imagine. The less you reveal, the more they respect. But there is a risk hidden in this power. When the mask fits too well, you may forget it is a construct. That is not failure. It is evolution. To live effectively, the mask must dissolve into identity. The man who once pretended calm becomes calm. The one who mimicked detachment becomes detached. The habit becomes nature. Emotion no longer needs to be suppressed because it no longer controls. The mask ceases to hide. It transforms. It becomes the new face of command. Machiavelli taught that people follow appearances, not realities. They obey the image of confidence, not the fact of it. The sovereign man uses this knowledge not to deceive maliciously, but to preserve his autonomy. By controlling perception, he avoids manipulation. He can act with precision, unaffected by the tides of sentiment that drown others. Every gesture becomes deliberate, every word a calculated move on an invisible board. This is not a call to cruelty. It is a call to discipline. To master emotion is to master timing. To master timing is to master consequence. The world does not bend to truth. It bends to presentation. The wise man becomes both sculptor and statue, shaping the image the world sees while remaining untouched beneath it. He learns to smile when it suits strategy, to withdraw when noise grows loud, to observe when others expose themselves. His restraint is mistaken for virtue, his silence for wisdom, and in both mistakes lies his advantage. The second metamorphosis is complete when you no longer flinch under scrutiny, when praise no longer excites you, and criticism no longer stings. When people speak and you no longer feel the urge to correct them. You simply watch, gathering information, deciding which illusions to reinforce and which to dismantle. You become stillness personified, a presence both trusted and feared. The first transformation killed guilt. The second conceals truth. Together they form the foundation of quiet domination. Beneath the smile lies precision. Beneath the calm, calculation. You are not empty. You are focused. The world sees a face that never falters, a composure that never cracks. But behind it, an uncheckable intelligence waits silent, patient, ready to act when the moment is right. The mask is no longer artifice. It is armor, and the man who wears it becomes untouchable. Power maintained through illusion must eventually evolve into power sustained through discipline. The mask protects, but protection is not enough. It must give way to mastery. the silent authority that no longer depends on deception because it governs reality itself. Once emotion is silenced and the mask perfected, a man reaches the threshold of something greater, sovereignty. This is the third transformation, when strategy becomes instinct, when calm becomes command, and when the inner world ceases to be moved by the chaos of others. The first lesson of sovereignty is understanding guilt as a weapon, not a wound. You have seen how easily emotion can be turned inward to control you. The same principle applies outward. Guilt paralyzes more effectively than fear because it makes people discipline themselves. The sovereign man plants guilt where it benefits him and removes it where it weakens him. He never accepts blame that serves no purpose, and he never offers apologies that achieve nothing. Every confession costs leverage. Every explanation gives power away. When others seek to entangle him with their expectations, he simply declines to participate. Silence is his refusal, and that refusal cannot be negotiated. But this restraint must be balanced with precision. The emotionless man who lacks direction drifts into emptiness. The disciplined man channels his detachment into creation. He builds systems, alliances, and outcomes, guided not by impulse, but by design. Machiavelli warned that morality should bend to interest, yet interest itself must be guided by reason. Power without clarity destroys its holder first. To remain in control, one must attach purpose to every action, each decision a move on the board, each word a calculated risk, each promise a temporary bridge. Emotion is no longer banished, it is harnessed. Anger becomes energy for swift action. Desire becomes focus. Even compassion, when chosen, becomes strategy. Fear remains the foundation, but now it is refined. It is no longer the blunt instrument of domination. It becomes a climate you control. To inspire fear effectively, you must also inspire trust. One without the other leads to rebellion or decay. Machiavelli understood this duality when he wrote that a ruler must be both lion and fox, the lion to strike decisively, the fox to avoid traps. True power blends strength with subtlety. It is firm enough to deter and flexible enough to endure. The sovereign man embodies this balance. His authority does not roar. It resonates. The world responds to this equilibrium with awe. Those who encounter him sense something they cannot name, a steadiness that cannot be provoked. He listens while others speak, measures while others react. His silence is not passivity, but surveillance. When he finally moves, it feels inevitable, as if the decision had been made long before anyone realized it. That inevitability is the essence of dominance. People accept what they cannot predict, but feel they cannot resist. Control of the self extends to control of the environment. The sovereign man curates his surroundings with the same precision he applies to thought. He selects people, spaces, and habits that reinforce his clarity. Distractions are removed without drama. Loyalty is maintained through respect, not affection. He does not chase influence. He creates conditions that make influence natural. His home is orderly, his speech deliberate, his schedule consistent. Routine is not confinement, it is preparation. Discipline builds the architecture of control so that when opportunity appears, he is already positioned to seize it. In this state, promises lose their moral weight and gain strategic value. Machiavelli taught that a wise ruler must never keep faith when doing so harms his interests. The sovereign man understands this principle without cruelty. His word is as strong as its utility. When circumstances change, he adapts. The masses call this betrayal because they mistake consistency for virtue. He calls it alignment because he serves only truth that remains useful. He does not bind himself to yesterday's convictions if today they obstruct progress. For him, loyalty is to results, not rituals. This clarity does not make him hollow. It makes him vast. To feel nothing in the ordinary sense does not mean to lack depth. It means to contain it. The sovereign man becomes like the ocean calm on the surface. immense beneath. His stillness is not emptiness, but magnitude. Within it lie every feeling he has mastered, every wound he has transformed into strength. Others see only serenity. They do not sense the tides of force waiting below. This is what makes him unshakable. He does not avoid storms. He becomes their horizon. When insulted, he does not react. When praised, he does not glow. He accepts both as weather-brief and irrelevant. The noise of the world cannot reach his core because he has defined where his core begins. He no longer seeks validation and therefore cannot be manipulated by it. Praise loses its flavor when you no longer crave approval. Criticism loses its sting when you no longer seek acceptance. What remains is a clean kind of strength, the ability to act without audience. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. But beyond fear and love lies something rarer: inevitability. The man who commands it does not need to intimidate or charm. His presence alone directs events because people feel his certainty. They align themselves with him instinctively, as planets align to gravity. This is not charisma, it is consequence. The world bends around those who do not bend within themselves. To sustain such clarity, discipline must be constant. The sovereign man trains his body as he trains his mind. He eats to maintain focus, not indulgence. He rests to recover, not escape. He works not for validation, but for mastery. Every aspect of his life becomes an expression of order. From the outside, it appears austere. From within, it feels like freedom. The absence of chaos is not emptiness, it is peace. In conversation, he reveals little. His sentences are precise, stripped of excess. He does not waste words trying to persuade. He lets outcomes speak. When he chooses to speak, each phrase lands with the weight of inevitability. When he chooses silence, it unsettles. He does not argue arguments or contests for those who lack command. He simply acts. By the time others understand his intention, the result is already complete. Over time, his quiet authority becomes mythic. People cannot recall a moment when he raised his voice or showed distress. They begin to project meaning onto his calm. Some imagine kindness, others menace, all obedience. He becomes unreadable, and unreadable men are feared. But his power is not born of cruelty, it is born of precision. He moves only when necessary, speaks only when decisive, punishes only when final. He is neither reckless nor indulgent. His actions are so measured that they appear effortless, and that illusion of ease cements his legend. At last, he understands what Machiavelli meant when he said the wise man does at once what the fool does at last. Hesitation belongs to those who feel too much. The sovereign man hesitates for no one. His timing is impeccable because it is unburdened by emotion. He sees the world as it is, not as he wishes it to be. When he acts, he does not hope, he calculates. When he wins, he does not celebrate, he continues. His victories are quiet, his lessons internal, his trajectory unbroken. This is the final metamorphosis. Emotion has been tamed, the mask perfected, the will purified. He has become a force rather than a participant, a presence rather than a personality. He no longer responds to the world responds to him. He is not detached from humanity. He has transcended its need for constant validation. His empathy, when shown, is deliberate. His generosity, when given, is strategic. His love, when offered, is chosen, not demanded. In the end, the sovereign man walks through chaos untouched. He owes no explanations, seeks no forgiveness, and fears no betrayal. He has learned the greatest truth Machiavelli ever implied, that mastery of self is mastery of all. The one who controls his inner weather commands the storm. He stands where others falter, silent, steady, watching the tides of emotion crash harmlessly at his feet. Around him, the world trembles with uncertainty. Within him, Everything is still. And in that stillness lies the final power, an unbroken will, cold as iron, calm as night, absolute as destiny.